Today we'll be talking about understanding the real estate market and how important it is to understand the market on your real estate journey. Let's get to it. So what's up, YouTube? Welcome to the channel if you're new. Welcome back if you're not so new. This is the Level Up series, volume 2, part 2 of the last video I've recently uploaded, I think last week. So go ahead and check that out if you haven't already. Now, today we're talking about understanding the market, how important it is. Well, what exactly is the market, how important it is to understand what that is and how that affects your real estate journey. So before we get into it, I just want to say thank you for all the support. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe. Let's get to it. Now, you may or may not have heard somebody over time say, I would get into real estate if the market were right. It's not the right time. I don't want to buy right now because of the market is up, the market is down, the market is even, whatever the case may be. And this makes sense coming from somebody who's inexperienced, because it's like with working out, or it's like with anything else you may want to get into, you always waiting for the right time. But usually the right time never comes. So for this video, we want to make sure that we understand what exactly is the market, how important it is to know what the market is, and how we can navigate through any market, how we can position ourselves in any market. Always remember that successful investors, and that's what we're looking to be, successful investors do not react to markets. They prepare for them, they plan for them, and most importantly, they position for them. And that's what we're looking to do. So first and foremost, what is the real estate market? What exactly does that mean? You know, people throw that term around and it's almost understood that other people know exactly what you're talking about or what the other person is talking about. But let's clear everything up and let's define what exactly the market is. The market, simply put, is the relationship between how many people want to buy and how many properties there are available for those people to buy. Or even simpler, you can think about supply and demand and money, the money that people have, all combining together. That's basically what the market is. So when you hear people bring that term up, bring that phrase up, you know exactly what they're talking about. Now, I want you to remember the term market drivers, right? These are the things in which determine how the market looks at a specific time. Different things like inventory levels, interest rates, job growth, migration patterns, all contribute to the outlook of a market at a specific period of time. Like this, you have different markets. You have your national market and you have your local market. Now, of course, under those things, you have your buyer's market, your seller's market, and we'll touch on those as well. But nationally, you can have what's going on in your country, but also understand what's going on in your actual locality, your zip code, your neighborhood, whatever the case may be. And this is what you have to use in order to understand the big picture, but also the small picture. Your national market is going to tell you where the interest rates are going, the confidence consumers have in potentially buying these properties. It tells you what lending looks like at the time, and also tells you the general price direction of each property. So basically, you can think of the national market as a way to understand the climate that real estate is in, right? As opposed to your local market, which will tell you, can you survive in that specific climate? And now that we speak on local market, we can speak on what that tells you. So the local market tells you what rents are doing, what properties are actually selling for, tenant demand, neighborhood growth or decline, how long certain listings sit. This is what your local market will specify. And you can look at all this through Zillow, Redfin, things like that. Websites like that can tell you what exactly is happening in your area. So we need to know both pictures. We need to know both pictures. We need to get a general idea. We don't have to get too in depth, but we need a general idea of the national, but we should get more in depth with our local market, because that's what we're going to be buying in most likely. So nationally is what determines affordability for all of us that live in the United States. Your local market and you understanding that determines your profitability, right? Can you profit off of a property? Then your actual neighborhood market, which goes into the local market as well. Your neighborhood market determines stability, right? Depending on the growth and decline of a certain neighborhood can also tell you how stable your income will be with rent, and even the tenants in or out of your own property. So remember this, when you comprehend each market, it's going to take some time, but when you understand fully what the market is, you forego any type of guessing. Everything becomes you deciding on what is the best decision to make. There's always going to be gray area, but there is no longer that cloud of confusion that you once had. So remember, the market is not really that hard. It's most people just do not take the time to study it. So let's get to applying ourselves to study the market, study where things are going so that we can prepare ourselves to win. Now I think it's pretty wise for us to discuss a buyer's market as opposed to a seller's market. What do each of those terms mean, and why is it important for us to know which market we'll be buying in? So one thing I want to make clear is that though I'm throwing a lot of terms and a lot of vocabulary, this is not just a vocab exercise, but it's something to help you understand how you can negotiate your terms whenever you go to the closing table, or before you get to the closing table, and also how to move in these specific markets. Depending on the market, whether it's buyers or sellers, this determines how much money you make or lose. And it also determines whether you move fast or you move smart. Now, of course, we encourage being smart at all times, but sometimes the smart thing to do is move fast. So real quick, what is a buyer's market? What exactly is a buyer's market? A buyer's market is where there are more buyers than there are homes. So the buyer has the power because of the amount of options that the buyer has. So if you remember, a couple of videos ago, I used an analogy of going into a grocery store and buying in bulk. So let's use another grocery store analogy. Say that a grocery store you go into is overstocked, right? You go in there as a buyer, they have way too many things on their shelves. Because of the options, the prices will go on sale. Managers will negotiate with you just for the sake of getting off of a lot of that merchandise or inventory, I should say. But as the buyer, people get picky because they're the ones that set the terms. So because of the amount of sheer volume that there is to choose from, they can negotiate in a way in which puts them in the best position with the best terms. If you are ignorant as to who has the leverage, you will fail negotiating. You have to know what position you are in as opposed to the position of the seller. Also in the buyer's market, you have to think, because there are more homes than buyers, there's less competition for each individual property being sold. So this is what leads to the seller becoming more desperate. And this puts the buyer in even more of an advantageous situation to get the best rates and also the best price. As the buyer, you have to take your time. You have to take your time with this. You also have to take your time with the seller's market as well, but you want to take your time with this and you want to focus on long-term holds, something that you know that when you buy it, you're not going to want to sell it for a very long time. Because you're buying in a buyer's market, you're probably going to have the best rates you can get at that time because of, like I said, the desperation, if that's what you want to call it, of the seller. So it benefits you and it saves a lot more money long term if you, in the buyer's market, buy something long term. How can you tell if you're in a buyer's market? You can tell you're in a buyer's market whenever you realize that prices are beginning to decrease. Right, whenever the prices are beginning to decrease, and when rents are beginning to shorten, or excuse me, whenever rents are beginning to flatten, they're even decreasing, you know that you're in a buyer's market. Now remember, when we're talking about multifamily properties, we're already in an advantageous position because of the likelihood of less competition. So whenever you add onto the fact that potentially we could be dealing in a buyer's market as well, we are in a better position, an even better position than if we were buying, let's say, single family properties or negotiating in the seller's market. One thing we have to keep in mind is that you never want to rush. No matter what state, city, neighborhood you live in, never rush. Make sure that you're always analyzing whatever you're getting into. Check the sales nearby, check the comps. If you're looking to buy a duplex, triplex, quad, whatever it is you're looking to buy, look at in that area what those units, what those types of properties are going for, what they're selling for, and also what they're renting for. Whenever you begin to stop analyzing, you stop evaluating, that's when you begin to get into the process of overpaying. At the end of the day, we're looking to make as much money as possible, but also saving money along the way. We don't want to spend more than we have to. So the most important question of this whole video is this: how can I, as a future successful investor, look to put myself in the driver's seat in any market? No matter the market, I can safely say I will function, I will survive. The first thing you have to do is control what you can control. Your credit, your cash reserves, your income, your spending, your education. All these things that you can control yourself is the first step to putting yourself in the driver's seat. Because the other factors you have no say in. But at least with the things that you have your hands in, you have under control. And second thing, make sure you're buying a deal, you're not buying a dream. Look, the numbers, like the saying, numbers don't lie. When numbers are involved, emotions don't matter. So the question you have to ask with a property that you're looking at is, does it cash flow? Right? We're looking at cash flow as a way to essentially and eventually achieve financial freedom, right? So the first question is, does it cash flow? Are the repairs for the property, the potential repairs, are they realistic? Is the price realistic? Also, are the rents proven? In case this happens, can you survive a vacancy? You always have to take that into account. Can you survive a vacancy? Because with tenants, you never know what may come up, what may happen. Evictions happen. Different things happen to where people are not able to pay. And there may be a vacancy for X amount of reasons. So can you survive that? Now, also, the third thing you can do is to create leverage before you even need it. Now, this also references back to last video where we talked about the team you have. And this is why the team matters so much, because your relationships with certain people, like a lender, can help you so much when you're looking for these deals or whatever, because because you've already created that rapport, you two are familiar. Now he'll work with you even more than he would with some stranger. He knows your financial situation, so he can help you in a better way, in a more understanding way than another lender could. And that's why you create leverage. Also, the last thing, and absolutely not least, don't focus so much on where the market was. Don't focus on so much where the market is. That's important to know, but we want to invest where the market is going. So the things you're looking at when it comes to that, you're looking at job growth, you're looking at population movement, right? You're looking at different construction in the area that may increase property value. So when you see this, you have a more positive mindset as to where the market is going if the market was formerly in a negative state. So that's how we stay positive. We're looking at what the future holds, and that's what we're investing in. Investing where the market is going, not where it currently was or where it is in this present moment. So I think it's safe to say that with the right preparation, you will be able to navigate and succeed in every market there is, buyers or sellers, no matter what the national market is, no matter what your local market is. Remember, it's not the market that decides your future, it's your wise decisions that do. So remember to stay diligent, stay disciplined, and respect and trust the process. That being said, don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe. I hope all of this information on this really third volume of my Level Up series was helpful. I pray you got everything that you need and you're on your way to purchasing your first multifamily property. Thank you for watching. Win at all costs.